Welcome back to Triple Alpha Sports Talk. I'm Josh. That's Bryce, and that's Roy over there. Sadly, not in person this week, but next week we will have the Seahawks, the Jags, and the Bengals. I was wrong. The Seahawks did not make the playoffs. The Jaguars did not make the playoffs, and the Bengals did not make the playoffs. So one more week of teams that did not make the playoffs. Yeah. We will do the ALS, and that will be our last baseball division. Pretty good division, too. We'll say that. Next week, we are going to do a special episode on Wednesday, the day after the podcast goes out for us, but the day that you guys will see it. We will also be recording a March Madness episode that will come out that night, Wednesday night. We're going to have some special guests on there to talk college basketball, and we're going to review the bracket that comes out this week on Sunday. So it's going to be a good time, ready for some March Madness. It's going to be exciting. You guys have anything else?
Nope.
All right. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, comment. Please comment something. I'm tired of reading no comments. I want to comment something.
Even hate comments.
I don't care if you hate our take. Tell me how bad the Royals are. Tell me how bad the Cowboys have been in free agency. Something. Tell me.
They've only signed
re-signed. They didn't sign anybody. They re-signed a long snapper. I mean, shit, I'm about to put my number down on Indeed and send it on to Jerry. He might sign me. But I think that's it. Yep. NFL free agency has started, and usually we'll kick off our breakdowns, but we're going to jump right into some free agency news, and Bryce is going to lead us through it a little bit.
Yeah, we've had a ton of free agent signings in the past 2 days. I mean, as soon as the deadline hit, it started going crazy with that new cap being upgraded. So the first one, I'm just going to go, some of them we'll talk about, some of them we'll just kind of breeze past in case it's your team and you want to hear them, like a signing that you might have not heard about. So the first one's Sam Darnold to the Minnesota Vikings, 1 year, $10 million. I mean,
to me, this is the backup plan. I think they're going to target quarterback more now that they let Cousins go. I think this is an insurance if they don't get, because they're not going to trade the future away. I don't think they're kind of set up. If they can't get anybody, I think Darnold's going to be the guy, but I think they're going to try to get someone in the draft.
Yeah.
Roy?
Yes, that's exactly what they're going to do. So
right.
Minnesota's just building a bridge.
Yeah.
All right. Next one's Damian Lewis to Carolina Panthers on a 4-year, $53 million deal. Bryce Young finally got his number one receiver, right? Is this the guy?
I don't believe so. I thought this was a lineman.
This is the center, yeah.
Center. Oh, that's. Yeah. I thought that was their overall grade, like a C.
Oh, yeah, it is C. Wait.
I think this is an offensive lineman, if I'm correct. It's good. You know, they need to build interior first. And I know they signed.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
being a lineman.
Yeah. Later, we'll talk about another signing they made on the offensive line. I really have liked Carolina's move so far. Really have.
Well, yeah, you got to build around a young quarterback, so that's what they got to do.
Another one of those backup plans, Jacoby Brissett to New England Patriots on a 1 year, $12 million deal. Probably another team that's, I mean, everybody knows they're going for a quarterback. Yeah. We don't really know who, but definitely just another backup plan for New England.
Yep, I could definitely see them taking a quarterback like Jaden Daniels at 3, letting Brissett go the first month, then flipping it. So, yeah.
I mean, you bring in Jaden Daniels. I think it's who they're going for, and I think that'll give them the bridge. And Jacoby Brissett, he's been there before, so this is not like somebody just coming in and gives them a bridge. I think he'll be the whole year teaching the kid how to do it.
The next one's Marcus Davenport to the Detroit Lions on a 1 year, $10.5 million deal. This is a really good deal to me. Davenport is an underrated defensive lineman, in my opinion, and getting paired up with Hutchinson is going to be pretty phenomenal for the Detroit Lions defense.
Roy, you want to go next?
Oh, no, they needed it. They needed
yeah.
I mean, they need somebody opposite. I mean, when we went to sacks, Hutchinson had 80% of their sacks, and that's just not. You got to have somebody on the better side.
I really like this signing. It's quick, 1 year. You're not tying any money down other than this season. And he was outstanding next to Deion Jordan in New Orleans. Put him next signing to Hutchinson. Same production, probably. I like it.
Yep. The next one's Jordan Brooks to the Miami Dolphins on a 3 year, $30 million deal. I don't have a lot to say about this.
I'll go. I'm going to be honest. This is probably one of my favorite signings of the offseason. I think Jordan Brooks is a really good player. I thought he was going to stay in Seattle. Wanted Dallas to get him 10 years for 3 or 10 mil for 3 years each. I think it's a great deal. Good for Miami.
Yeah. Roy?
I don't care about it. I don't
Next
know
one,
about
I don't really know a lot about the guy. Yeah. Again, Frankie Louvu to the Washington Commanders on a 3 year, $36 million deal.
It's a decent deal. I think it's a little too much, in my opinion, for him. But Dan Quinn likes to have multiple edge rusher. He doesn't like to have 4 down linemen and play the whole game. He likes to have a rotation, and he's getting a lot of pass rushers for about $5 to $10 million. So I see what he's doing. He did it in Dallas, but I think it's a little much for Frankie Louvu.
Well, I mean, Washington
ju-
need to rebuild what they lost. I mean, last year. So
I mean,
Yeah.
they've been active in free
money.
agency so far.
Yeah, they have. The next one's Justin Jones to the Arizona Cardinals on a 3-year, $30 million deal. I probably know the most about this because he was a Bear, and I think this year he kind of stepped up a little, so was looking to get paid a little more than what I think Ryan Poles is probably going to offer him. So he went to the Cardinals. 10 a year, it might be a little bit of an overpay, but he could turn out to be a really good player.
Don't blame him for getting the bet. Okay.
Siri just started screaming.
Siri just started talking to us. All right. Okay.
Did anybody have anything on Justin Jones?
No,
I mean, Arizona needed more defense. So
yeah.
Leonard Floyd to the San Francisco 49ers on a 2-year, $20 million deal.
He's bounced around. He's a good pass rusher. $20 million to me seems like a lot, but I guarantee you they can get more out of him than he's probably been on. So I don't hate it. But
yeah,
it's a lot of money for. I mean, for somebody, I knew they had to replace Chase Young, but that's a lot of money for a guy that I didn't think would be that. I mean, it's not that good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest one of the year so far. Gardner Minshew to the Las Vegas Raiders on a 2-year, $20 million deal.
Bryce, go first on this one.
We'll talk a little bit more about this.
That's true. We are talking about the Raiders, so we'll skip it. I'll save my thoughts.
We'll come back to that whenever we talk about our Raiders breakdown. Xavier McKinney to the Green Bay Packers on a 4-year, $68 million deal.
Roy, you want to go? You know who this is?
Yeah, I mean, Green Bay's just. I mean, they're just loading. I mean, that's what they're doing. They're trying to catch Detroit and separate themselves. I think that's what they've done with this. With one of the meetings they've done.
I mean, it sucks because he's in our division. I really was hoping that the Bears targeted him, but we got Bird instead.
Yeah, Byard.
Yeah.
This is I watched him play in New York. I remember this kid came out of the draft. He fell down the board because safeties usually fall in the draft a little bit. And I really wanted Dallas to pick him up, and the Giants swooped him up. And he came into a really good player. Quite a bit of money. I mean, almost 20 a year. But man, he's going to be really good. They let Darnell Savage walk, so they used Savage's money in this deal, which I liked. It's a good fit, good deal. Maybe a little bit more than I'd like, but sometimes you have to do that to get the free agent.
Yeah,
so
they're really beefing that secondary at Green Bay. Robert Hunt to Carolina Panthers on a 5-year, $100 million deal.
Jeez.
I mean,
I'll go first. They definitely overpaid him, but they also aren't spending any money, so I don't hate the deal. It's 4 years, it's 5 years. Bryce Young won't be due to be paid for 5 years if he ends up being the guy. So I don't hate the deal, and especially if he can be really good, attract some players to Carolina by having a good O-line. I don't hate it, but it's definitely an overpay.
Yeah, that's a ton of money.
Yeah, I mean that's just a lot of money for a team that's still. I mean, it's in a weak division, but the team's still got to rebuild.
Yeah.
The next one is probably actually one of the craziest ones is Kirk Cousins to Atlanta Falcons on a 4-year, $180 million deal. I mean, that's just an absurd amount of money. I think that they're trying to spend all their money right now, go all in before they have to pay any of their big time players that are all on rookie deals. So I don't think it's a horrible move, but wow, that's a lot of money to be sending to a guy who just came off an Achilles tear and it's like 37.
I agree. What do you think, Roy?
Well, I'm going to tell you that Kirk Cousins' agent is a master of all of it.
Yes.
I mean, that guy's gotten this guy guaranteed money out of for a quarterback that when he was in Michigan State, I thought he was an average quarterback. I didn't think he was that great.
Wasn't very good in Washington either until his last final 10 games.
Yeah. I still don't think he's great. I think he's just a consistent arm.
Yeah.
4 years, $180 million. I mean, it's good for Atlanta because like you said, they have a lot of young players. They got to build around them, and that's a weak division, so they could win now.
I agree. I like the signing. It's a lot of money, but Bryce said it, and we talked about it before we came on this show. I mean, they're not paying anybody. All their best players, Pitts, Bijan, all rookie deals. I mean, they ain't paying nobody really. Yeah. The defense was good. We talked about him last episode, Roy. You throw Kirk Cousins in there, he's just going to not turn the ball over for the most part, and he's going to hit the open guy. He's not going to make crazy plays, but that's a perfect fit for that offense. Throw it to the tight end. Throw it to who's the receiver? My mind's blank. Drake London. Drake London, jump ball receiver, needs placement. He's not going to create separation. And turn it around and give the ball to Bijan Robinson. Love the fit. And I said it before there was even links that I thought that was a good fit. I just didn't think he'd leave Minnesota. So I'm going to take a point for that one.
I'm pretty sure I said it on the last podcast that that's where he was going.
I said it weeks ago. But
the next one is Josh's favorite so far, Saquon Barkley of the Philadelphia Eagles on a 3-year, $37.75 million deal.
I mean, I'll say it like I've said the last 10 years. The Eagles go out and they always get the big name running back and they always flop and they trade him the next year. DeMarco Murray didn't pan out. They traded LaShawn McCoy after a good career. DeAndre Swift didn't work out. I'm sure Saquon Barkley, and I sent Bryce a TikTok of this yesterday. Jalen Hurts is going to steal 5 touchdowns in the red zone the first 3 weeks, and he's going to be screaming, "Get me out of here. I hate this place," because he's not going to get the touchdowns. It's a good fit. They needed a running back. They used running back by committee the last 5 years. So maybe they're not going to do that. I don't know. They spent a lot of money for an injury-prone running back.
Who's also aging.
But I also know how good, if he stays healthy, he is. So I don't hate it. But the fit, the way that the Eagles have played the last 3 or 4 years, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So maybe they're changing, and it will make a lot more sense. But right now, I'm not like a fanboy where I hate it, like as a Cowboys fan, but I also don't love it for the Eagles either. So.
Well, let me tell you, I think this is a good thing for Philadelphia. I mean, put him behind that line. I mean, that line's good, and he's going to have plenty of room to run. Unlike New York, the Giants. I mean, he just got the crap beat out of him. The Eagles have to change the way their philosophy on the offense. I mean, they cannot just let Jalen Hurts get hit 20, 30 times a game. And so giving Barkley the ball is going to help. That's what's going to help. Swift wasn't that guy. Swift was more of a pass catching. I mean, he's a good shifty running back, but he's not your pound guy.
Yeah.
Barkley can do it all. I mean, Barkley's a hell of a running back. He wasn't happy in New York, and I think this is a perfect fit for them. And
I don't blame him for leaving New York.
It's gonna to excel the Eagles, I think, with all the outspeed on the outside.
Yeah. It is quite a bit of money to give a running back though these days.
I think he definitely didn't want to be in New York anymore. But I don't know why this is the team he chose, because I don't think he's going to fit into their play style unless they do change up the.
Well, you got to think that they have to change, or else this doesn't make any sense.
You would think that, but they lost like 8 games at the end of the season.
But they did get rid of that offense coordinator, because the offense coordinator they had the year before, he did like to run the ball just by committee. This year it felt like it was only Hurts running the ball. So maybe it was the offense coordinator. I can't tell you. He's gone. We'll see. But something has to give, or else it makes no sense. But something will give. I agree.
The next one is also the Eagles. Bryce Huff on a 3-year, $54.1 million deal.
Yeah, this is I know this guy pretty well. He played for the Jets. He was a good pass rusher. He was the guy that no one talked about when Quentin Williams on that D line. It's a little bit more money than I thought than he would get. But the player, I love the player. I don't know if Hassan Reddick will be back in Philly. There's real big talks about him moving on via trade. With as much money as they're spending, I don't know. I don't know how they have this much money, but it's a good player fit. I agree. Perfect.
Oh, I agree. I think their defense needed a little bit of help, especially more pass rush. So this is a perfect fit for them.
Yeah, the next one is another Raider, so we won't talk much about it, but it's Christian Wilkins on a 4-year, $110 million deal.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, Vegas trying to beef up that line.
Big signing.
Johan Jackson to the Los Angeles Rams on a 3-year, $54 million deal with $34 million guaranteed.
Yeah, this is a big loss for the Lions, in my opinion. This is one of the better guards in football. They just did not have enough money. I don't know if we'll get to it later. They paid their other guard big money as well, and they kept him. But there's not enough money to go around for everybody. That offensive line was stacked, and it's a good pickup for the Rams, who aren't paying anybody really outside of Stafford.
Rams are trying to get another one in before Stafford retires, I think.
Yeah.
They're trying to beef around him.
Oh, I agree. I think they needed protection. I felt like the offensive line for Rams were really weak this year. Yes, it does hurt Detroit, but this gives Detroit. I mean, Detroit spending their money other places, and this just gives them time, in the draft to get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Gabe Davis to Jacksonville Jaguars on a 3-year, $39 million deal worth up to $50 million. I'll talk about this one first. I don't think that Calvin Ridley's staying there at this point, so I think they were going for another receiver, and it kind of sucks for me because I saw that the Bears were the other team that he was tied with a lot, and I think that he would have been a perfect fit to back up DJ Moore. Instead, it looks like we're targeting Calvin Ridley instead now. So
I love the structure of the deal. It's an incentive deal, so it's based off performance, which I love. If some player goes out and performs well and he gets more money because of that, it's deserved, but it's not guaranteed. I read this morning that the Jaguars are still talking to Calvin Ridley, so I wouldn't say they're out. I definitely think it's harder now. I like the fit. He's a good route runner. He gets open. I don't know how much Josh Allen helped him in that regard. I guess we'll find out. But I like the player. I like the fit.
I mean, Gabe Davis is a good receiver, but bringing him in, you had Calvin Ridley. He at least understand the offense. I feel like they just don't use the receivers right. I think Lawrence is just not. I mean, they've got to learn to get him to spread the ball because it felt like he just hit the tight ends like we talked about,
Yep.
and he just hits a couple of receivers. And that's it. It's not. He's not a. In college he'd hit 4 or 5 different receivers. He's just not. I feel like they've got to change that philosophy where he can get the ball to other receivers. And Gabe Davis will. If they do that, then he'll succeed in that offense.
Yeah.
Next one is Tony Pollard to Tennessee Titans on a 3-year, $24 million deal.
Yeah, Cowboys were in talks with Pollard. That's too much money. I'm not paying Pollard $8 million, in my opinion. I think it's a good fit. They're kind of going in a new direction. To me, Spears is kind of the same running back, a little bit more of a speedster guy, not the pound. So I don't love the fit. I think it's going to be a running back committee 50-50. And for $8 million, I don't love paying a guy getting half the carries $8 million. But that's not my problem. I wouldn't have paid him in Dallas that much, but good for Pollard to get his money.
I agree. I don't know why they spent that money either. I mean, you got the same running back in the backfield already, and then you get Tony Pollard. I mean, what's he going to change between the two of them? He's not a pound kind of guy. $8 million. I mean, that just feels like they're just the Titans were just trying to spend some money on something to get get their crowd going. That's it. No, I don't think they really did it wisely here.
The next one is DeAndre Swift to the Chicago Bears on a 3-year, $24 million deal. The Bears have been tied with a bunch of running backs during the offseason. It was pretty clear they were going to sign somebody in free agency, and it looked like it was going to be Saquon Barkley or Josh Jacobs. Both ended up signing much bigger contracts than DeAndre Swift, so I'm kind of happy that we ended up going with Swift because he's a younger running back who I think a little bit better in this game, and he explosiveness that the Bears really lacked in their running. Somebody's going to take it to the house. We've got 2 third-down running backs who are going to run it up the middle and get you your yards. Now we've got that guy that you can run the ball on first or second down maybe who could bust out a 10, 20-yard run. So
Roy, I'll let you go next.
Didn't you just have a running back just like this last year or 2 years ago? Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny that it's kind of funny that Detroit and him, he was with Detroit. They were both drafted same time. One went to Detroit, went to Chicago, and now they're on the opposite teams. They're basically the same player. No, I think it's a good fit for the Bears. I think they needed this explosive running back, like you said. They need to get something off of whatever they're doing at quarterback. Whoever they have a quarterback, they got to get some pressure off of him, and that's and Swift will at least get you that. And so, like you said, you have that pound and ground, kind of running backs already. So Swift will give you at least a change of pace.
Yeah, I like the fit too. I like the deal a lot more than I like the fit. It's a great deal, in my opinion. It's not too long. You're not paying him, that much money. So any production I think you get out of him is good. I just personally, and this is just coming from a football fan, the Bears had so much money in free agency. I would have liked to see the bigger name, the flashier name. But I don't hate the deal. I like the player. It's a good fit in that regard. But I just wish they would have went a little bit more expensive.
I like this because they save money to go for more other free agents that if they want to target, like someone like Danielle Hunter, who could be signed by the time this podcast is out, but he's not yet. The next one's Jonathan Grenard to the Minnesota Vikings on a 4-year, $76 million deal.
Roy, I'll let you go first on this one.
I mean, I think this is just fits the Minnesota. They need more defense. I think this means that Danielle Hunter is gone.
Hunter. Yeah,
I think he's gone. So, but this, Brian Flores as the defense coordinator. I mean, this is what he needs more defensive ends, and that's what he likes to do. So I think it's good for Minnesota. Their defense needed a little pick me up, especially when they don't really know what they're doing on the offensive end right now with the running back and quarterback. So they're really going to bolster that defense, at least keep them in ball games.
I personally really like this deal. I like Jonathan Grenard. He had a good year in Houston. I really am surprised he left Houston. I thought they would pay him. It's less than 20 a year for a guy who got over 10 sacks. I mean, you take that all day long. I don't know the fit that well. I mean, I don't know if he's the same kind of rusher that Hunter was, but I like the player and I like the deal, so I like the fit in that regard.
Yeah, I think this would work really well if they do end up re-signing Danielle Hunter. But to me, it's just you're swapping out a guy instead of adding 2 coming off both ends.
He is much younger, so in that regard, it's good. But I agree. Production-wise, yeah.
We'll probably figure that out in the next few days. So
let this be the last one.
Russell Wilson to the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 1-year minimum deal.
To me, that was the last one. That worked perfect. To me, it's no risk, high reward. I mean, you're paying him $0. The Broncos are paying him. He comes in. I don't even know if he'll start over Pickett, but he might not. Anything you get out of him is a plus. Anything you don't get out of him, you're not paying him anything. So it's really nothing for me. It's, I guess, good signing. It's nothing.
I think we're going to see the exact same Steelers team that we've seen for the past 6 years or so. They're going to have just an even record just to get into the playoffs and lose the first or second game.
I mean, it's
very
that's
possible.
what Russell Wilson's going to give you.
I think it's a good fit for Russell Wilson. I mean, they hand the ball up a lot there in Pittsburgh and
play good defense.
And play good defense, and that's all. Because he's not gonna do anything to get you in trouble, but he's not gonna do anything to get you a big win or anything. But I think you're right. I think they'll be 500. I think he'll be the bridge to figuring out if they want Pickett or if they want somebody else, and they probably might extend him for another year or two, just to keep him. But I think for him, this is a good signing for him and Pittsburgh. I mean, like I said, they don't pay him anything, so it's good for them.
All right, that's going to lead us right into our NFL breakdowns, and we skipped the Raiders picks or signings because the first team on our list is the Las Vegas Raiders. They finished last year 8-9. They have the number 13 pick in the first round, and then a very traditional 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All their own picks, I believe. Just like a lot of the teams right here in the middle, we've talked about the last few weeks. Multiple quarterbacks. They signed Jimmy G in the offseason. He gets hurt / doesn't play well. 7 touchdowns, 9 picks in 7 games. Aiden O'Connell, who I cannot physically believe is a NFL quarterback out of Purdue. Actually didn't play too bad. 2,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks, but pretty much we're out of the race by the time he took over. Brian Hoyer played 3 games, heaven forbid. He's still in the league. Jacobs had a disappointing year. They had no offensive production, really. 800 yards, 6 touchdowns. Really, offensively, it was either get the ball to Devontae Adams or don't do anything else at all. 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns. He was very productive. Devontae Adams is a star in this league. We know that. Just didn't have a whole lot of people throwing him the ball. I'll let Bryce take this first. What do you think about the Raiders season?
I mean, the Raiders season, it looked like they were trying to go all in on Jimmy G, being their guy, adding Devontae Adams, and then that obviously didn't play out. Now you're just kind of trying to get through the season, see what you've got going with all these backup quarterbacks. I think them letting Josh Jacobs walk, I mean, that was like their majority of their offense, in my opinion, last year in the games that he played. They don't really have a whole lot of playmakers outside of Devontae Adams. I mean, Jacoby Myers is a decent wide receiver, I think, but Devontae Adams is it. So I see them pushing for a quarterback, one of those late round quarterbacks that we're going to see, like a Bo Nix or
Michael Penix.
Michael Penix, someone like that. So, but they did add Christian how do you say his last name? Wilkinson. Christian Wilkins. They're beefing up that defense. Him and Max Crosby is probably going to be one of the best D-lines in the NFL league. So I'm excited to see them two play together.
How about you, Roy? What did you think of the season that the Raiders had?
Well, all the turmoil they actually had a pretty good season, I thought. They had just terrible quarterback play. I mean, Jimmy G is just, for a guy who I thought when he was in New England was pretty decent, and then went to San Francisco, had a couple good years. But then he's just falling off. I don't know what his deal is. Letting Josh Jacobs. They're in a weird transition right now because they got a good defense. Adding Wilkinson, they got Crosby. They got a good defense. Their total defense was 15th last year, and they've improved it. The problem is their offense was 27th, and you just lost your top running back, and you don't really have a quarterback. So what are you going to do? So I agree. I think they're going to use Gardner, or I don't think they'd use Aiden at all, O'Connell at all. I would not if I were them. And just build that grip. They're going to draft a quarterback, and they need it. But the problem is they need a running back, which I'm surprised they haven't done anything yet. And they also need somebody opposite side of Devontae Adams. So they struggle on the opposite side, and they haven't improved anything yet. So hopefully, maybe they got something in the works, but they're going to rely on probably a Gardner just not turn the ball over and their defense winning ball games for him.
Yeah. If they kept Josh Jacobs, I wouldn't hate, the Gardner Minshew signing as much because you're probably going to give it to him 400 times in a season. But, to me, I don't know how you don't decide to – if you knew Josh Jacobs was going to hit free agency and you knew you might not bring him back, how do you not deal him? You weren't in the playoff picture last year, especially the first half. They fired their coach. They were a mess, and then they, kind of got hot late, but it still didn't matter. I don't know how you let Josh Jacobs walk for nothing. I get not wanting to pay him as much, but then I'm dealing him at the deadline for something. Yeah, I agree with Bryce. They have got to take a quarterback. I mean, Aiden O'Connell shouldn't be in the National Football League, in my opinion, and Gardner Minshew. And Gardner Minshew is I think he's a great backup quarterback, and I think he's a fine starter, but he's not going to win you anything. He might do his job and make a crazy flashy play, but that's it. Yeah, take us into their signings. They do sign Christian Wilkins, 4-year, 110. I love the signing. I mean, that defensive line looks so scary now. I think it also helps, what's his face, Max Crosby, frees him up a little bit on the other side. Max Crosby might be a name to watch for Defensive Player of the Year now that he's not going to be triple teamed every play. Jacob walks, Minshew, and they let one of their other defensive linemen, Bilal Nichols, walk. Only other free agents that really stood of any name, Brian Hoyer and Austin Hooper. I mean, if you lose both of them, who cares? They still have $40 million after the signing of Wilkins and Minshew. So they got money. The running back market went quick, but I don't really have anything else to say other than I think they're going to go backwards a little bit.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a down year for them. They're going to have their rookie quarterback sit behind a Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. I was reading that they're going to have a playoff for the starting position between those two quarterbacks. So I think it's good to have a quarterback. Obviously, I think Gardner Minshew is going to start, Roy. I think he's a much better player. But I think it's good to have a rookie quarterback sit behind an NFL quarterback for at least a year. It typically works out whenever you have a quarterback sitting.
So. Yeah, I agree. I think you got anything else, Roy?
Nope.
That's going to take us into the Saints, and it's our first time we've hit a winning record on our breakdowns. The Saints finished the season 9-8, but they do miss the playoffs. They have the number 14th pick in the first round, second round, and then they don't have anything until the fifth. They have 4 fifth-round picks, 6, 6, 7. So kind of mixed bag in there. They traded a lot to Denver. They traded their 4th-round pick, I believe, with Sean Payton in the deal to Denver, and I believe they acquired maybe the second. I'm not sure, but a lot of trades in there that were confusing.
A lot of round 5s.
Yeah, a lot of round 5s. And again, like we've mentioned before, from a lot of these teams in the middle, multiple quarterbacks. Derek Carr, he did play the whole season, but missed halves of games and things like that. They used Taysom Hill quite a bit in the, power offense.
Yeah,
Roy,
he came in on the Wildcat.
That's what I was trying to think of. And Jameis Winston found his way into 7 games. Derek Carr, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks. But I don't know if you guys watched the Saints play. I had Kamara on my fantasy team, so I watched quite a bit. It was either sack, incomplete pass, or check down to Kamara. That was the entire offense, the entire year. So the stats don't look terrible, 3,800 yards, but he was checking down to Kamara every play, basically. Alvin Kamara only played 13 games. I believe he was suspended the first 4 games or so.
Yeah.
So basically 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, 4 yards a carry. Not great. They used Taysom Hill quite a bit in the Wildcat. He was okay. Chris Olave had a good year, 1,100 yards, 5 touchdowns. Kamara, as a running back, had almost 500 yards. But outside of that, there wasn't much. I'll go first on the recap of the Saints. The Saints, they're not getting much production at the receiver position outside of Olave and then with the help of Kamara. I don't think Derek Carr is the guy. I mean, he's fine. He takes care of the football a little bit, and he's a competitor, but he's just not accurate with the football, really. I mean, if he throws downfield, it's usually pretty ugly. Kamara's a stud. He always has been, and I like Olave, but from the reports, Michael Thomas is getting ready to be released, and they don't have anything outside there. I think they definitely need to work on the offense. How about you, Bryce? What do you think?
So I agree Derek Carr isn't the guy, but I think it's hard for this team to move on because the guy had almost 4,000 passing yards. Yep. I mean, it's hard to see those kind of numbers and then move on, in my opinion. Alvin Kamara is still their only offense, but outside of Chris Olave, I think he had a good year. But that guy's getting old, you know. They don't have a lot of stuff to look forward to in the future, and I thought that's why they picked up Jamal Williams. You know, he had that great year in Denver.
Detroit.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Detroit. And then comes over, and I picked him up on fantasy. I thought, wow, this is going to be a stud guy getting the carries that Alvin Kamara's not. And then it seemed like he never got the ball.
Yeah.
And they didn't use him at all. So I'd like to see them use him more this year. And then they've got to add somebody in the receiving department with Chris Olave, because I have also seen that Michael Thomas isn't going to be there. So.
Yeah. How about you,
Yeah.
Roy?
Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, Michael Thomas he hasn't been there really for the last 2 years. He's been injured,
No.
or
Yeah.
I mean, since John Payton left, or was a couple years ago, he's been non-existent. Chris Olave, well, he was good, but when he was hurt, I mean, he got hurt a lot this year, and he was on a bum ankle for a lot. That offense just looks. I mean, the problem with the Saints is they need a lot of help. They got no money. I mean, they're
Exactly
they're below
negative $9 million with
Yeah,
the cap going up $20 million. They're still behind. So
they're gonna have to go with Derek Carr to bridge that gap. They're gonna have to get a quarterback. They're the type of team who's gonna get a quarterback. They're gonna get like a Michael Penix or Bo Nix probably to come in and then hopefully battle with Derek Carr, and then they can say, "Hey, Derek Carr, you suck. So get off the field. And we'll put this guy in." Because I mean, Derek Carr has not been the player that he's been hyped up to be. He is the most overhyped player. Yeah, 4,000 yards, but he's had so much talent on every team he's ever played with that he can do that kind of stuff. I mean, you get to Kamara. Kamara's freaking amazing. So,
with the football in his hands.
They need help. They need help all over the field. Their offensive line's still pretty decent, but their defense was good, but their offense just needs a lot more help.
Yeah.
I would like them to see them use Taysom Hill in the slot more too. I felt like he only got on the field if he was doing that wildcat, and I think he's great with the ball in his hand as well. Like, obviously not as good as Kamara, but he's a good player with the ball.
Yeah, you'd only see he doesn't play receiver too much. He usually fills in that tight end slot.
Yeah,
that's the one they'll throw him into. But yeah, I mean, he's really good with the ball in his hands. But if they like him at quarterback at times, so they don't like to run him out there the entire game and wear him out. So yeah, it's a nice weapon, but
it's just a weird offensive style that they've got there in New Orleans. So
it is.
I feel like they need a whole new culture change, honestly.
To me, the best route is to beef up that offensive line a little bit, however you can, with no money, and just live and die by the running the football. I mean, they do have a good run game, especially if you throw Hill back there as a wildcat. I mean, it's just downhill running at that point. But the outside of Olave, they don't have a lot on the outside. Anything else, guys?
No.
That's going to take us into the Colts, which, don't quote me, but I believe is the last team that did not make the playoffs for us. So after this, I believe we will have playoff teams. They played in the playing game, basically. Week 18, winner take all with the Texans, and they lost, and the Texans got in. They finished the record 9-8. They have a number 15 pick, and then a very traditional 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They started with Anthony Richardson, who they drafted number 4, kind of shocked some people, and he looked real good in 4 games. I know the stats won't look it because it's the first 4 games. 577 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. But then it was the Minshew show, and he actually played pretty well for what they needed. 3,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 picks. Jonathan Taylor missed a lot of the first half of the season with that contract issue. They finally get it resolved. He extends, and Zach Moss comes over and plays pretty well in the limited time he had. Moss had almost 800 yards, 5 touchdowns, and Taylor looked good when he came back. Every single player they had ran for over 4 a carry. Jonathan Taylor 750 and 7 touchdowns in 4 less games than Moss. Their number 1 receiver, Michael Pittman Jr., 1,100 yards, but only 4 touchdowns. They really struggled to throw it into the end zone. It was either run it in or nothing. And outside of Pittman, they really struggled getting the ball to receivers. Bryce, I'm going to let you go first on the Colts. What did you think of their season? And they were only 1 game away from making the playoffs, despite their top 5 pick quarterback not playing most of the season.
I thought that the Colts had a better season than anybody thought they were going to. I didn't think this was a very good team at all. And then Anthony Richardson going down, of course, the week I picked him up in fantasy.
Me too, Star. I started him as well. Week 4.
That sucks, but I might get hate for saying this. They might have been a better team with him not playing and Gardner Minshew playing, because I don't think Anthony Richardson's that great of a passer. And he's a great runner. He's a big dude. He's fast, strong. We saw him powering his way into the end zone, but I just don't think he can throw the ball deep at all. Like, he's got this crazy arm, but there's just no accuracy around it. And Michael Pittman Jr. is not going to get the 1,152 yards that he had with Anthony Richardson at quarterback all year, in my opinion. So it sucks that their rookie quarterback that they used a high pick on didn't get to play all year, and now he's going to have to go out there and be the starter without Gardner Minshew being on the team. But, they have Jonathan Taylor still, who's really good, but they just got rid of Zach Moss as well.
Yep.
So they're losing some of that run game that kind of carried them all year. They re-signed Michael Pittman Jr., right?
Yep, big deal.
Big deal. Hopefully he becomes a blanket for Anthony Richardson to grow as a passer, and he proves me wrong. But I just don't see him developing in the way that the Colts want him to develop as a throwing quarterback.
How about you, Roy? What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean the Colts, they surprised everybody, but you got to think they had Richardson at the beginning of the year. Those 4 games, Jonathan Taylor wasn't there. I mean, you're
Exactly.
talking. So they had. I mean, this is going to be a new year for them. I mean, Richardson. I agree. I think he has an arm, but I just don't know how. I mean, I don't know how accurate it is. Because he did show some accuracy during those 4 games, though.
Yeah.
Their problem wasn't on. I mean, they do need some. They got Jonathan Taylor back. That gives them a running game. They need more receivers to help with Pittman. Their problem was defense. I mean, they were 24th in total defense this year. I mean, they struggled in a weak division. I mean, nothing. Jacksonville's really not like a powerhouse. Houston was just on a rise this year. So you're talking, the Titans are not as good. So you're still in a division where you could still compete and win it maybe. If you just got to get the players around the players to do it. They got $60 million in cap space, so they got some room to get some players. And then they do have some draft picks that they could go. But I think they got to get some defensive players. But on the offense, they got to get a receiver to help Pittman on the other side.
Yeah, I agree. I disagree with you, Bryce, a little bit. I thought Anthony Richardson looked really good in his 4 games. He's got a cannon of an arm. You can't teach it. You can work on the accuracy. I'm not saying he's going to be the most accurate quarterback, but he's got lightning fast speed, rocket arm. I mean, you can't ask for a whole lot. He definitely needs to dial it back on the run game a little bit. I mean, he's running like a running back in college, and that's why he got hurt and missed the whole season. But with Jonathan Taylor there, they're going to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor. That's why they paid him. I do agree with you, Roy. They need another receiver. And where they're at in the draft at 15, sometimes receivers do fall. I could see someone like an Odunze falling in the draft. Maybe look at him going like 8 or 9, but I see him falling in the draft. I'm not saying he will. I'm just using it as an example. Be a great pickup for them. Definitely need help on defense as well. They have a good pass defense, but their run defense has been kind of shaky. And another thing I'll say, they need to develop Richardson, because if you look in this division, Houston has C.J. Stroud, who looked amazing his rookie year. Jacksonville has Trevor Lawrence, who looks to be there for the future. I mean, he doesn't look great, but he also doesn't look bad by any means. They need to hit on this pick. They used number 4 pick on him last year. They need to hit, because that can quickly become one of the better divisions in football for the near future. But I don't think I have anything else. They do have $70 million in cap space, so I mean, they have the money, and I mean, they don't have to spend it right now, but
I'm not sure who they would spend it on.
Yeah.
Now there's been a lot of stuff go off the board that I thought they were probably in on.
They probably don't have $70 million. I might have printed that before Pittman signed his extension.
I just looked, we got $60 million right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. That probably takes into Pittman's contract, so a little less, but still quite a bit of money. And even if they don't spend it now, it doesn't mean they can't spend it in other ways. So,
and Cincinnati's looking to trade T. Higgins.
Exactly,
it'd be a perfect spot for him to go.
I agree. I mean, shoot, even if you threw your number 15 pick, I don't even know if it'd take that much, but number 15 for T. Higgins, and you extend him. I mean, something like that is a perfect fit. So, I mean, they're set up nice for the future, especially if they can keep Richardson healthy and play him. And I don't think I have anything else for that. You guys?
Nope.
I think that's going to roll us into baseball. This week we got an interesting division. It's going to be the AL Central, one of the weaker divisions in baseball over the past few years.
Terrible division.
Yep, definitely pretty bad. But I mean, they did beat the Blue Jays, the winner of this division last year. Beat the Blue Jays in the first round, so can't say they've been all that bad. But the bottom is definitely ugly. We're going to start with the team that finished last year, the Kansas City Royals. They go 56-106. Their only key loss is Zach Greinke. I mean, he didn't really lose a whole lot. He's like 40 years old at this point, Roy, but went back to where he started. And from reports I've read, they are interested in getting him back. But their key additions, they signed Hunter Renfroe, Michael Wacha, Kyle Wright, traded from Atlanta, Seth Lugo, and Chris Stratton, who won a World Series last year. Their offense looks like Miguel Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvi Perez, MJ Melendez, Hunter Renfroe, Michael Massey, Nick Prado, and Kyle Isabella. Bench is pretty ugly outside of Adam Frazier, who I believe will start. Rotation of Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Bradley Singer, Jordan Lyles. And their bullpen is where it kind of gets ugly. They have Chris Stratton, Nick Anderson and Will Smith. Fun fact, Will Smith's won 3 straight World Series, so whoever signs him basically wins. So lock these boys in to win the World Series. Just kidding. Bryce, I'll let you go first. What do you think of the Royals this year in this team?
The Royals, they only have Bobby Witt Jr. He's the only guy who even is like worth it to me on that team. You know, Salvador Perez, he's a legend there, so I can see him still being he's still there at 30, almost 34 now. They didn't really lose a whole lot, but I do like the people that they signed. You know, none of them are huge names, but they're all step ups from what they had.
Yeah.
You know? You can't really get much worse whenever you're adding new players to a team this bad.
Yep.
So it just sucks to see how bad they are because of how close they are to us. We'd probably go to a lot more games because that stadium's awesome. But they're going to be at the bottom of the division again this year. They just don't have enough. They don't have enough players in any aspect of the game to really climb their division at all, in my opinion.
How about you, Roy? What do you think of the Royals?
Well, this gets me about the Royals. You know what? Was it about 4 or 5 years ago? They were on top of the division. You know, in the World Series stuff. I mean, and then they did a reset, which I understood. They got their payroll got high. But they didn't develop the players that I thought they would to bring in to kind of replace that. I mean, like you said, Bobby Witt Jr. is pretty good, but I mean, the rest of the team is just a bunch of. I mean, there's some young guys mixed with some old guys that just aren't, performing the way they need to. And you like the signings. I mean, they're just typical Royal signings. And Waka, I mean, he's an older player. I mean, I just feel. I mean, Kyle Wright was a decent pitcher for the Atlanta. I think he could be something. But Seth Lugo and those guys. I mean, it's a team that is just looking to fill a roster, to hopefully getting their young guys up as soon as possible. They're better players. And this is a team that's just not going to win. They're lucky they're in a weak division, or they would probably lose. I mean, wouldn't win 50 games if they were in a tough division.
Yeah, I have a little bit different perspective of the Royals. I know you guys don't know a lot of these smaller names. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr. had one best seasons of baseball last year. I mean, he's a top 5 MVP finisher at the age of 23. They have a bopper in Vinny Pasquantino. He missed all last season with a shoulder injury. He can swing. Salvy Perez is going to strike out 300 times and hit 40 homers. Just what it is. I love the Hunter Renfroe signing. Got the strongest arm in baseball in right field, I think. Yep, they're putting him in right. Outside of that, it is a little weak. I agree, but I like some of their players. They have Adam Frazier on the bench. He's going to start almost every day for the Royals.
Yeah, but I don't think he's that good anymore.
And then on the pitching staff, I don't know if you guys know who Cole Reagans is. He got sent over, I believe, in the Aroldis Chapman trade. I could be wrong on that. He came from Texas. I know that. His final 10 starts is a below 2 ERA. I mean, he was unhittable in the last 10 games, his starts. Michael Walker was fantastic for San Diego last year. They need Brady Singer and Jordan Lyles. Jordan Lyles isn't young, excuse me. Brady Singer is 27. He needs to take a next step. Don't know if he will. The bullpen is pretty ugly. I will give him that. This team is much improved due to being in a weak division. You guys did say that. If they're in a different division, I think they get hammered. But this division is weak. I mean, very weak. They're going to win a lot more games than they did last year. I mean, they won 56 last year. You could easily add 10 onto that without a doubt, in my opinion. I think they're going to be much improved, especially because a lot of their pitchers they have are pitchers who they pitch the whole season. They don't get hurt. They just pitch. They're not going to have a 3 ERA or a 5 ERA. It's going to be right in the middle. So they have a lot of players that are just going to give you what they give you. And you just got to hope your young batters take that next step. And I don't think I have anything else for the Royals. That's going to take us on to the White Sox. If I could get to them. Good Lord. There they are. Why is it? Oh, key losses. They lose Tim Anderson, Liam Hendricks, and Aaron Bummer. They did go 61 and 101. And their key additions, they trade in the Bummer trade. They get Michael Soroka, Eric Fetty from Korea, Japan. He was in the MLB before, but went over there. And then Nicky Lopez. Lineup looks like Andrew Benintendi, Yohan Moncada, Luis Robert Jr., Eloy Jimenez, Andrew Vaughn, Dominic Fletcher, Paul DeYoung, Nicky Lopez, and Martin Maldonado, with a few non-roster invites off the bench. Pitching staff looks like Ace, Dylan Cease, then Eric Fetty, Michael Kopech, Mike Soroka, and Chris Flexen. And then the bullpen outside of Garrett Crochet is pretty ugly. A lot of names you don't know very well. Roy, I'm going to let you go first on the Sox because they had kind of big hopes last year until it all fell apart.
Yeah,
So.
I mean the White Sox have players. That's what gets me. I mean, there's a couple guys I do. I mean, I always liked Andrew Benintendi. I thought he was. I mean, I think but he just got hurt last year. I mean, and got hurt as a Yankee. I just feel like he's a player that just hits. I mean, hits for average. He's not a home run hitter. He's just going to get you what you need. But they got two. I mean, Luis Robert is that's a guy that is a stud. And I mean, he's a great center fielder. And I always like Jimenez or whatever, Eloy Jimenez. Yep. I always liked him. He gets hurt every year though. But those are some names that I've liked. Their problem is that I think they've had some guys on the team, and Tim Anderson I think was a cancer to their team. I just think he's kind of got he's just more about playing, the show than actually playing it, win ball games. I don't think he's a big loss. I don't think Hendricks I don't think they've got any losses that they really need. I think they've actually helped their team a little bit better. Their bullpen's still pretty crappy. I mean, when you got to throw Deivi Garcia in there, who was a crappy Yankee pitcher for a while. Their starting pitch, I mean, Cease is a hell of. I mean, he's a hell of a pitcher. Kopech, I thought it wasn't too bad. The other guys aren't horrible, but I mean, their bullpen, they give you innings, but their bullpen's just terrible. And now that you don't have your back end's just really bad when you didn't have Hendricks back there. This team is going to win a little more ball games, I think, just than they did last year. Because I'm thinking that these batters, I mean, Paul DeYoung's the kind of a guy that's going to give you some average to get on base. So I hope these guys, because you'll have Luis Roberts and all those guys hitting home runs. This team will probably win a few more games, but they're not, and it's not like some big improvement. They're going to make the playoffs.
How about you, Bryce? What do you think of the White Sox?
The White Sox to me are kind of like the Royals. They've got one good player, in my opinion. That's Luis Robert Jr. right now. He's gotten better every single year, and he's only 26. And every year he comes out, he looks like he's bigger and faster, and he's hitting the ball farther and just looks like an all-around better player. They have some decent role players, like Roy mentioned, Andrew Benintendi, Moncada. I know how to say his last name.
Moncada.
Mm-hmm. And Paul DeYoung. This team, I don't see them winning a lot more games, like Roy said. They sold a lot of their players at the deadline last year. Yep. And it made sense because the team just wasn't working. Like Kelly was sold. Who's the other?
Lance Lynn was sold.
Lance Lynn was sold. So players like that, and then they started playing great as soon as they got out of there. So I think they have a losing culture in White Sox Stadium. The area sucks. Like everything about the White Sox just screams it sucks to me. Like it just feels like a losing culture there to me. Yeah. So I don't see them being any better than what they were last year. I think that they're hoping that they have maybe some young guys that might be better or might start popping up, but they just don't have anybody besides Dylan Cease who I think is any good, or in the pitching aspect is any good, and then Luis Robert and their batting lineup. And I don't even know if Dylan Cease is going to be on the team next year. I've seen that I think it's the Yankees that are sending them talks with them. So
yeah, is that all you got?
Yeah,
that's going to lead into me. I have a little bit different of a take on this team again, as you guys. I think this team fucking sucks. I'm gonna be honest. I know, but this is, to me, I honestly do believe this is the worst team in baseball. Not as it's constructed currently. Dylan Cease will not finish the year on the White Sox. He just won't. I don't know. Benintendi gets traded. It's a big deal. Luis Roberts is a stud. Just hands down is a stud. And everyone expected him to be. He just had to stay healthy. He finally did last year. It's crazy what happens when you play a whole season. You're right, Roy. Eloy can't play a full season. I'll never forget, Eloy Jimenez jumped for a home run to rob a home run on the wall. And he tore his pec like 2 years ago. They acted like he died. They took his jersey and hung it in the clubhouse like a player that died. It was crazy. Never seen it in my life. Cease won't finish the year on this team. So you're looking at Eric Fetty, Michael Kopech, Mike Soroka, Chris Flexen, and probably Deivi Garcia. I think this team's terrible. Moncada was traded for Chris Sale. I mean, the guy hasn't hit 270 in his career, and he's terrible. Robert Jimenez is good. Paul DeYoung might hit 180 if they're lucky with 10 home runs. I really am not a big believer. I do like Kopech and Soroka. They could, have good seasons.
I thought Kopech was a golfer.
You are thinking of a different Kopech. They're both 26 and 27, but I really am low on this team. I don't think they're very good. So that's all I have. I also think Garrett Crochet will get traded as well. I think you're going to see this team fall apart at the deadline. So that's what I got for them. Sorry to be so negative, guys.
I mean, they're a bad team. It's a bad culture. The stadium sucks. The area it's in sucks.
It reminds me a lot of the Chicago Cubs.
No.
Yeah.
You go to Wrigley and you're like, wow, this is baseball. You go to the White Sox and you're like, I'm in where I shouldn't be. That's what I'm saying.
That's going to lead us to the Cleveland Guardians, who had a disappointing year after winning the division for multiple times in a row. They go 76 and 86. They missed the playoffs as well. Their key losses, they lost Lucas Giolito to Boston, Ronaldo Lopez to Atlanta, and they trade Cal Quantrill to Colorado. I'm gonna be honest, I almost didn't know any of their key additions, like none, other than like very little names in the bullpen, like Carlos Carrasco. Like I'm not adding that. So key additions, none. They're gonna roll out basically the same team they did last year: Steven Kwan, Andres Jimenez, Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, Ramon Laureano, Bo Naylor, Kyle Mendez-Razo, but he's a non-roster invite prospect. I don't know if he's going to make the roster. Gabriel Arias and Miles Straw, with one of Roy's favorite Yankees of all time on the bench, Evistan Florial.
Yeah.
Rotation is where it starts to look better. Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, Tanner Beebe, Logan Allen, prospect Gavin Williams, with Emmanuel Clase in the bullpen, Eli Morgan, Nick Sadlin, a lot of smaller names, but have always produced for the Guardians. They've always pitched well. It's been their marquee of their club. Roy, I'm going to let you go first. What do you think of the Guardians?
Well, I mean, the Guardians, what they've done, I mean, you still got Jose Ramirez. I mean, I think that Kwan is a pretty good ball player. Josh Naylor, I think, is a good ball player. They're not going to be the good team. They're going to score a bunch of runs. They're just going to. Other than Ramirez, and Naylor may hit some home runs. They're not going to do that. They've been good with pitching. Now the question will be: will Shane Bieber be the pitcher that he had been? I think.
And will he stay?
Yeah, will he stay? I think, if they're not winning, he won't stay. But if they're winning, I think he might. Tristan McKenzie, I think, is he's a stud. He's one of them that I thought the Yankees, when they were trying to trade earlier in the year or a couple of years ago, and for prospects from Cleveland, this is one of the guys they should have gotten. And I think he's got some. I think he's a good starting pitcher. Their bullpen, I mean, they always show up. Their bullpen always shows up for some reason, and they've like you said, they're known for pitching, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to come out here and they're going to pitch. They're just not going to score a lot of runs. They're lucky they're in a weak division too, so they're going to win some ball games just because they're in the weak division.
How about you, Bryce? What do you think?
I think this team just had a really bad down year, in my opinion. Steven Kwan, like Roy said, is a really good ball player, and so is Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor, and then they've got some guys at the tail end of their order who they could step up and be better players as well. You never know. A lot of them are young. You got 24, 23, 24 there at the end. So, but yeah, like Roy said, their pitching has always been their best thing. Shane Bieber, Tristan McKenzie, you hit them two on the nail. Emmanuel Clase in the bullpen, he's one of the best relievers in baseball, in my opinion. I mean, that guy's a stud.
103 mile an hour cutter. It's tough to hit. That's
tough to hit. So I think this team could bounce back a lot this year from being third in the division. I could see them going all the way up to first, maybe. This division isn't that good. Yeah. And I think they have one of the better lineups in the division, as long as their pitching does hold up as it has. So,
yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm closer to Roy. This, to me, is just your average middle of the pack team because the lineup to me is weak. I really like the pitching staff. I really do. I think Gavin Williams, he's listed as their 5. He's a good prospect. They've just been waiting to find room for him. I think they finally have the room for him. He's going to, I think, be that number 5. When Bieber's on, I mean, he won a Cy Young in that shortened season. I mean, he's good. We've seen Bieber many times, Roy, in the playoffs as a Yankee fan. Yeah. He's a good pitcher. I mean, I'm not saying he's outstanding, but he's a good pitcher. McKenzie's a twig, but damn, when he is healthy, he's good too. I agree. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Tristan McKenzie. They've always developed pitching well. That's just their marquee.
All of the pitchers on their starting lineup are all from Cleveland.
That's just what they do. They develop good pitching, and I'm sure there's some in the minors that we don't know about that are probably on their way. Jose Ramirez, to me, is one of the most underrated players in baseball. He is so good, but no one talks about him because he plays in Cleveland. Kwan, you guys nailed it. It's a freak, dude. He didn't strike out for like 200 at-bats to start his career. It's crazy. Outside of that, Bo Naylor, their catcher, is a really top prospect brother. Josh Naylor, It's a lot of wait and see. I don't love the bottom of their lineup. Weak division, it's going to help. It's going to help them win more games with that pitching. I see this being a very middle of the pack team, right around 500. I think they win more than they did last year. They were 76 and 86. I think they win more than that. I don't know if they get. I think they're sitting around the 80, 82, 500. I don't see them going above that unless the younger players in their lineup have crazy good years. But outside of that, I'm going to keep them around 500. And that's going to take us into the Detroit Tigers, who quietly snuck their way into second place after having an abysmal first month of the season. They go 76 and 84, miss the playoffs. Their key losses are Austin Meadows, free agent, Eduardo Rodriguez, Arizona, and Miguel Cabrera retires. Their key additions, that's not the right one. Key additions, Jack Flaherty, who they signed free agency, Andrew Chafin, who was there for most of the season with Delta. The deadline came back. They trade for Kenta Maeda from Minnesota, and they trade for Mark Canha from Milwaukee. Their lineup looks like Parker Meadows, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, Mark Canha, Cole Keith, Javi Baez, Gio Urshela recently signed, and Jake Rogers. Bench is where it gets a little ugly. Their pitching rotation looks like Tariq Skubal, Jack Flaherty, Kenta Maeda, Matt Manning, Reese Olson, with a closer Alex Lang, who had a career year last year, Andrew Chafin, and then the rest are a little bit uglier. Roy, I'm going to start with you. What do you think of the Tigers?
I actually like the Tigers. I think they've got a mixture of old and young players. That's what, and I love Torkelson as their first base. I think he can make a step. But then, you got veterans like Baez and Canha and Urshela. Riley Green's going to be a future star for them. I think he's really good. I like their pitching staff. They're not anything flashy. Skubal is a good young pitcher. I think he can take a next step. I think that KZ Mize guy, I don't know if you talked about, he for number 1 overall pick. I think he is a future and a star. To go with Maeda, who is just a guy who's going to give you innings. He's not going to be anything. He's going to do anything bad. Flaherty, I think he did a good job last year, or got hurt last year, I think, right? I think he'll take a step forward. I just think this team is a better team than they were last year. I think, Miguel Cabrera, as great as he was for a career, these last few years have been not the Miguel Cabrera that they needed. And I just think this team actually improved. And I think they're a team that's on the rise. They just got a mixture of young and old players that are going to win some ball games this year.
Yep. How about you, Bryce? What do you think of the Tigers?
I don't think that this team really lost a whole lot of anything, in my opinion. And Riley Green is a stud, and he's only 23 years old. So I think that they see him as their next future star. And they've got those old guys at the end of the bench who all used to be really good, like Javi, Urshela, and Jake Rogers. All those guys, Jake Rogers isn't as old as the other two, but all those guys used to be studs, and they've got all these young guys that are batting in front of them. It's just a mentor throughout the year. I think that the addition of Flaherty and Chafin is huge. Chafin is a really good whenever he's healthy, in my opinion.
Yep.
And Tariq Skubal, I don't know.
Tariq Skubal, you're right. Skubal.
I like him a lot too. I think that he can be a lot. Him and Jack Flaherty, if they both stay healthy and they're pitching the way that I think that they can, that'll be a good 1-2 punch in this, especially in this division.
Yep.
There's not a ton of big name hitters in this division, and those guys are going to get wins a lot whenever they're playing in this division. So I like all of their additions, and I think they became a much better team. And then the young guys are going to get better as well. So.
Yeah, I completely agree. This team, to me, made the biggest step forward of any team. Spencer Torkelson the last half of the year, he looked like the number 1 pick that he was. Riley Green, if he can just stay healthy, is a really good player, but he just hasn't stayed healthy. They also have Cole Keith, who they're going to start second, top prospect. I think he's going to be really good. I agree with you completely. Tariq Skubal is a Cy Young candidate this year, in my opinion. Not as big on Jack Flaherty as you are. I'm higher on Kenta Maeda being there too, who's feel like he has just bounced around teams and gotten a 4 ERA every year. Like, he does his job. He's never going to win you that big game, but he's also going to keep you in all of them. Their bullpen to me falls off outside Chafin and their closer Lang, but I like their lineup more than most people. I don't really know who Parker Meadows is, but if they're starting him at leadoff at 24, he can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I like the rotation. I like Skubal. Maeda to me is there too. Flaherty at the 3 isn't as bad. This team's young enough. This team is this feels like the team that if they have the good year and they're close to that in first place in their division. I can see them making a move. They have prospects down there that I don't know how far they are away, but I like the Tigers. I think it helps in the division. If we're there in a different division, we might talk about them a little differently. But I like the additions they made, and that's going to take us to the team that won the division, won their first round, the wild card, losing the ALDS, the Minnesota Twins. They go 87-75. Their key losses, they lose Sonny Gray to St. Louis, Michael A. Taylor, who's still a free agent, Kenta Maeda, we just talked about, traded to Detroit. Tyler Mahle goes to Texas, Emilio Pecan to Cincinnati, and they trade. I don't know why I didn't have that. Jorge Polanco was traded to Seattle. Their key additions, they really only add Manuel Margot from the Dodgers after he was traded from the Rays. Their lineup looks like Edward Julian, Byron Buxton, Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa, Max Kepler, Carlos Santana, Matt Wallner, Ryan Jeffers, and Alex Kirilloff. Manuel Margot on their bench, Willie Castro, Christian Vasquez, former Boston Red Sox catcher. Their rotation goes Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock, Louis Varland, with a bullpen that is really ugly outside their lockdown closer, Johan Duran. I'll go first on these guys. I think this team really got a lot worse. I don't know what they're not spending their money for. I thought losing Sonny Gray was a pretty bad walk. And I let go of half their pitching staff to me. Maeda, Sonny Gray, Mahle, Pagan was in the bullpen. I don't love their deals. They still do have a good lineup. If Buxton can stay healthy, Royce Lewis finally stayed healthy. He was the number one prospect in all of baseball a few years ago. Carlos Correa had a horrible year. He's got, you just got to think he bounced back a little bit. Their pitching staff, they still have a good 1-2 punch in Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan. After that, I don't love it, and I don't love their bullpen. To me, this team had the biggest step back of any team in the division. But they did win the division last year, so we'll see. What do you guys think?
I'll go. Yeah, they won their division last year, but it's such a bad division that it didn't really impress me all that much. They lost so many players though that I think it's going to be hard for them to win it again. Byron Buxton is really good, but like Josh said, he's got to stay healthy. Carlos Correa, Max Kepler, Carlos Santana, all those guys are decent players, but they're not a win the division type players in my opinion. And I agree with the bullpen as well. Johan Duran throws absolute gas, but that's it. I mean, I don't even know anybody else in this bullpen. So that's all I've really got on him.
I guess I'm opposite. I think Minnesota is actually pretty good. I mean, I don't like that they lost Sonny Gray, and I don't like that they lost Maeda, but their lineup is still pretty solid. I mean, Correa, Lewis, Buxton, like you said, as long as he stays healthy, that kid's a stud. I was hoping the Yankees would trade for him earlier. I think Max Kepler is actually a decent little player for them. I think they're just a good got a good staff or good hitting. Their staff. I mean, Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan are really good. I think Chris. I think they're 3-4. Patrick and Ober. I think they can do serviceable in that division. The only question I really do have is their bullpen. Like you said, Duran is freaking a stud. I mean, he's amazing.
Nice.
But the rest of them. I mean,
our splitter.
No kidding. They got some young guys back there that might develop, but this is Minnesota. This is a Minnesota team, in my opinion. It's just a typical team. So I think they'll still be the same team. They're going to win 80-some games, and they're going to be right there at the top of their division.
I will definitely say this is the most differential we've had of any division so far, I think. I think when we say the standings, we're going to look different than what we usually have. The only one that we've ever had different was the NL Central, probably. I would say. I mean, we flipped the Orioles and Yankees last week, but outside that, we were pretty much in agreement. I think this one might look a little different than our usual ones. So who wants to go first on their predictions?
I can go first.
Bryce?
Oh, yeah.
Rip first. So what is your order of division from bottom to top?
I'm going to go with the Chicago White Sox at last. That place sucks. Right?
That
all
place
environment.
sucks.
All the environment.
It is. Winning 4 to 5 more games, I've got the Kansas City Royals. I don't think that they take up a big step at all, like you guys might think. Then I've got the Minnesota Twins. I think that they had a hot year last year, and they lost a lot of players that's going to hurt them. And then I'm going to take Cleveland. I think that they had a down year last year, and they still got the lineup to be a leader in this division. And then finally, I've got the Detroit Tigers. They missed the playoffs last year, but I think that they added so many good people, and they've got great young prospects who I think are going to play better, and I think they'll win the division this
Okay.
year.
Roy, how about you? I'll let you go next.
All right. So, well, I'll go backwards, I guess.
Did we lose him? Roy? Roy?
You
Oh,
got me?
I hear him. Hold on. I hear you. I don't.
There you are.
You're back.
Okay.
We froze for a second.
All right.
He's
All right. So I'll start.
what's
so
that
I'll go
called?
with
SpaceX or Tesla's Wi-Fi.
Oh,
So what I'll do is I go Royals last. I think they're only going to win 60 some games,
Wow.
probably 68, maybe somewhere around there. Then I have the White Sox winning just a few more games than them, 70, 71, 72.
Shitty baseball.
I just think those are two really bad teams. They're just going to be. Then I have the Indians. I think the Indians are going to win about 80 to 81,
I love the
82
Indians.
games.
yeah. How racist of you, Roy. God
Yeah,
damn
or
it.
sorry, Commanders. Sorry, Commanders.
Oh, good Lord. Oh, that's so going on TikTok.
Guardians,
God
whatever
dang
their
it.
name is now.
Oh,
Guardians.
geez,
whatever
that
their
was
name is.
awesome.
Hey,
I love
it's
the
been
things
long.
like that.
I still see them as the Cleveland Indians. Then
I
I
told Bryce that's the one I mess up the most too.
Then I have the Tigers. I think the Tigers will win about 88 games,
Wow.
80, and around there. And then I still have the Twins at top at 80, at running about 89. I think the Tigers and Twins will be close, but I think the Twins is just experiencing what they got is going to win it.
Yeah, mine. I'm gonna be honest. Mine looks much different than Roy's. Closer to yours, but much different. I do have at the bottom. I do have the Chicago White Sox. I really do think they're going to be really bad after they make some trades. This might come as a shock. At 4, I have the Minnesota Twins. I think they're a pitching injury away from being in trouble, or a Carlos Correa injury away from being in trouble. He's been injury prone. So I'm going to have the Twins at 4. At 3, this one was close. I flip-flopped these twice. I'm going to have Cleveland at 3. I just think they're so middle of the pack that they're going to finish 3. I am higher on the Royals than you guys are. I have the Royals finishing at 2nd.
That's crazy.
I really want them to win the division, but I just don't know if their hitting can get them there. I think their pitching is good enough to win the division. I just think the Tigers have the ability to add at the deadline more than the Royals do. So I'm going to have the Tigers at 1, adding somebody. This is the weak division, though. Any of these teams are 2 to 3 injuries away from being a last-place team.
Yeah.
So to me, it comes down to health. It always does in baseball, and you can never predict injuries. The one I really – Cleveland is my sleeper team that could surprise. I mean, they just have the pitching. And I'm not worried about a pitching injury to Cleveland because I think they have reinforcements. But I'm going to go Tigers, Royals, Cleveland, Twins, White Sox.
All right, so we all have pretty different ones.
Yeah, I would say pretty different. Me and you had a little bit of the same,
Yeah.
but we just flipped one team completely. I think that's all we have for baseball. And we only have one more baseball division left, and that's going to be next week on Tuesday. We'll be doing the AL West.
Starts.
And then the following episode, we will be doing our draft.
Yeah.
Just like we did last year, we will be doing the draft live on this podcast. Next week, AL West. We'll get into that in a little bit. But I think that's going to take us to Josh's lock, Bryce's game, and Roy's old man wisdom. That fun fact is going to be a game today. Last week, I gave you, I don't remember the exact numbers, Tennessee to cover the spread against a top 10 team. I don't remember who they played. And UConn, I believe they played Marquette, to also cover the spread. And a boing, it won. So you're welcome. Take my advice every week. I'm going to get on there. I need to make sure the things are still – I hate doing it a day in advance. It's so much harder. And again, college basketball is starting next week. We will have some college basketball stuff. I'm going to go to the NBA. God dang it. College basketball games.
Another week of him not doing PGA like I've been asking.
Okay, fine. I'm going to the Players Champion.
This is the best Open of the year so
The
far.
Players Open.
This is going to be a fun one to watch if you want to watch an Open.
God, these names suck, dude.
There's like 6 or 7
Dude,
that could win, in my opinion.
no shit they can win because none of the good players are in the PGA anymore.
Scotty Scheffler is easily the best player in the world right now.
In the world or just in the PGA?
In the world. Scotty Scheffler's on another level right now.
Okay, I got it. Plus 210. Xander Schauffele to finish top 10. I'm gonna bet $25. It pays $77.50. That's gonna be my lock of the week. Even though is it played this weekend?
It starts tomorrow.
Yeah, so we'll know by the next podcast.
Yeah.
All right, that's my lock of the week.
My game of the week. This one's a little different. It's still baseball themed because we've been talking about a lot about baseball. So There's 7 answers, so we'll do 2 or 3 strikes. We'll see how I feel.
Okay.
At least 2.
Sounds hard.
No kidding.
We're gonna go with the ways to reach first base in baseball.
He's in trouble.
I think you guys might fly through this, but
We
you might get stumped.
might not get one wrong.
Okay.
Okay. Roy, I'm going to do the ones that I know first, okay?
I mean, there. Yeah. How many were there? 7.
7's what I got.
A hit in any way.
Yep.
Okay. A walk.
Yep.
A hit by pitch.
Yep.
Are you counting batter's interference as one? Technically it is, but you could also count that as a walk in that regard. So
Batter's interference?
it's catcher's interference when the
Catcher's
batter
interference.
hits the glove.
Yeah. Catcher's interference, yes.
Okay.
Strikeout. Drop third strike.
Oh, drop third strike,
Drop third
strikeout.
strike, yes.
I said, huh? That's a new
Yeah.
way to get on base. I've
5.
done a lot more.
2 more.
Error.
Air.
Error.
The last one. Is intentional walk counting as a walk?
Yes.
Okay. I assume, but I want to.
There's technically like 9 or 10 ways, but I combined it a few.
That's figured.
Like fielding error and error, like
I agree. So we have one left. Is this considered a hard one? You would say?
I would say this is the one that the people that I watched do it, they did not get this one. They actually didn't get it as fast as you guys did throughout them. So
We got
to me,
6
none of
seven.
those were hard. This was the hard one.
A walk, a base hit, intentional walk, catcher's interference, hit by pitch. You count that as a walk?
I think we already said that, didn't we?
Oh, we might have.
I think you said that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about interference, player interference?
I was just doing all the interference together.
Okay.
So
You got catcher and player interference, same thing. Is what you're saying?
I just put interference as one of them.
Yes, in his game,
Yeah.
he put them together.
Because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. But a lot of them are like similar. So I just
So like
combined
even
it a
fan
few.
interference, like
I didn't think about that one, but I just put interference
you
all
hit
as
in the
one.
outfield and the fan sticks out their
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
I
I mean, that would technically be a hit, right? Or no?
think so.
Well, actually, it's an out. I think now.
Let's think. Drop third strike.
I'll give you 1 strike, then you can get 1 wrong, and then you have to give a final.
We might
guess.
need a hint here. Do you even know how to give a hint to this?
I don't think I can give you guys a hint on this.
Yeah, I've seen this game before. So I know the answer. I just can't think of it.
Oh, I've never seen it, so I'm trying to think.
Well, I knew catcher's interference. That's the one I remembered from it. I feel it's a weird one, Roy. It's something like drop third strike. It's something like that. It's something not a traditional way to get on. Would you agree with that? Can that be our hint?
Yes.
Okay. I know it's not like a basic one.
Yeah. This is definitely the hardest one to think of, in my opinion.
How do you get on first base? A fucking bunt? It's a hit. I know it's not it.
I can't give you a crazy hint, but I'll wait. Well, you think a little bit more.
I don't know, Roy. I'm kind of blind.
I'm blank right now.
Do you want my hint?
Yeah,
then?
and give it to us.
This will probably only help Josh. This is how I got on first base every game in the playoffs in our slow pitch league.
That didn't help me at all. It made me more confused. Infield single?
Think about the playoffs during our playoff run, not the regular season.
I'm not trying to be a dick, but pretty sure he set you on the bench for most of the game.
Exactly.
Oh, pinch runner.
Pinch runner is the
That's so mean to your own self. How did I get on?
I would never
wouldn't
get
have-
that.
I was thinking as a batter trying to get on, but
Yeah.
yeah.
it's
Pinch runner. All right.
All right.
I'll give you a win for that one because
Okay.
I would never have gotten to that.
I never got that one.
All right, so I finally got a win.
Yeah, well, I'll give you that one. I mean, we let's be honest, we fucking dominated you the last month. So we'll give you that one. How about that, Roy?
Sounds good. All right. To me, I decided quotes are getting harder to find, harder to come up with. So I wanted to come up with some old players and see if you guys could guess them. Which one would you rather do? NFL, NBA, or Major League first?
Let's do Major League first because that's the one I'm not going to.
Okay, good, because I'm gonna be locked in.
All right. So I'll give you the team. All right, the teams. He's this guy is a 4-time World Series champion. All right. 1-time All-Star. He played for the Cubs, the Rockies, the Yankees, the Cubs, and the Cardinals.
What's that big?
Say that
What's
all
the,
of it.
What's the big picture?
So he's a 4-time World Series champion.
God, that's a lot.
He's an All-Star 1 time.
Not the guy I'm thinking of.
He was a
with
Cub,
the
a Rocky, a Yankees, a Cub, and then the Cardinals to finish his career.
Oh, back to the Cardinals.
Who's that the big black dude that's a pitcher and he was on the Cardinals and the Cubs? I can't think of his name.
Lee Smith.
Lee Smith. Was he a Yankee?
I don't know. He might have been. I don't remember Lee Smith being a Yankee though. We can shoot it. Lee Smith.
No.
I didn't think he was a Yankee, but I don't know.
You got a hint for us?
Can you give me a time frame of when he played?
He played from 1989 to 2003.
Oh man. So he would have
I'll give you a hint. You still see him on TV now as an announcer.
Ooh, I don't know if I'm going to get this one.
You're going to kick yourself after you hear it. He
So
was a position player. He's not a pitcher. He was a position player.
And he's playing on the Yankees during their run. Had to have been. That's how he got all his World Series.
He was playing. Yes, he was playing. He was a Yankee from 96 to 99.
He played on all 3 of our teams. So
I know, and that's the thing that's getting me. I'm trying to get someone
That's
that
why-
played over there.
That's why I try to pick the players for you on that. I figure you might get this one. The other two.
I don't know.
I thought we got it with the Lee.
I thought at first I thought it was Pat Holiday when he started saying Yankees, Cardinals, and Rockies, and then it wasn't.
No.
Who was on the Yankees during their runs? Jeter, go. Besides, I mean, those are all Yankees for life.
It's a position player.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even have a guess.
You want one more hint, or you done?
I'll
Give
take
me one more hint.
Okay, I'll just because I figure you'll get it if I give you this. He was a manager for the last few years.
Oh fuck! Now I have to get it because I can name managers. Managers for the last few years.
Yeah, he wasn't last year. What was he? Yeah, he was last year.
Was it the Angels manager?
No.
Did he manage for the Yankees as an assistant?
He managed the Yankees.
Oh, fuck. I know who this is. Yeah,
Who?
I don't know if I would have pulled this without that hint though. Joe Girardi.
Yep, Joe Girardi.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I could tell you anything about his playing career. I didn't even know he played for. I knew he played for the Yankees and the Cardinals. I didn't know he played for any of the other teams.
Yep, I knew he played for this. All right, you want NBA or NFL?
Damn it, I cannot believe I didn't get that.
Let's go NFL.
No, let's go NBA. Let's save football for last.
Okay.
All right,
NBA.
NBA. All right, this guy. I played for a lot of teams. He's an 8-time All-Star. All right. He never won a championship. He played for Toronto. He played for the Nets, the Magics, the Suns, the Mavericks, the Grizzlies, Kings, and Hawks.
It's Vince
Yeah,
Carter.
it is Vince Carter. That's who I was thinking. I didn't know some of the first teams, but those last I knew in order.
I knew all of them in order. He's one of my favorite players.
All right, for the
Nice.
football. You ready for this one?
Yep.
This one should be pretty easy. You should get this one easy. All right, he's a six-time Pro Bowler. He's won
Means
a
nothing.
few Super Bowls. He played for. He's not won a Super Bowl. He played for the 49ers, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Bills, and the Bengals.
Ooh. I didn't know that. I didn't know that list when you said it. Say the teams again.
49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals.
I'm trying to think of your quarterbacks that you've had.
That's the order, correct?
That's the
Yeah.
order.
49ers, Eagles, and then Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. Then the
Ooh,
Bills
man,
and
we
Bengals.
don't get many players from the Eagles. That's a problem.
I don't know.
I've known it the other way.
It came from
No, it's not our quarterback.
you drafting them and building them up. So I don't.
49ers. Oh man, I don't know if I know this one off the bat. I'm trying to think of. Can I have a time frame?
From 1996 to 2010.
Ooh, that's. Oh, say it one more time. I think I know it.
96 to 2010.
No, the teams.
49ers, Eagles,
Yes.
Cowboys, Bills, Bengals.
Ooh, see, I don't know about the last two teams, but I know the first
guy
two.
you're thinking of.
T.O. I know T.O. played for the Niners, Cowboys, and Eagles. I think T.O. did play for the Bengals, and he tried to team up with Chet Johnson. Give me T.O.
You're right. Yep, T.O.
Yeah. That one, I just remember that. I hate that guy, by the way. Hate him.
He's just,
So you got 2 or 3.
Yeah. That baseball one was tough. Because I don't know Joe Girardi as a player. He's a manager in my eyes. Like I don't. So
No, I know as
all right.
All right.
Peace.
yeah.
Peace.
All right, we need